Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Fitness Fables and Fatherhood. My name is Josiah. I am the host, and this is our good friend Eric the Blue joining us today to review his new obsession, Dungeon Crawler Carl. It seems like we have our next, 6 or 7 books chosen because Eric can't put this down and read anything from the wheel. So I will spin this off to him initially. But first off, Eric, how are you doing today?
Good, good. Happy 4th of July. Yeah, I don't know. This has been kind of a phenomenon. I don't normally get into books like this, and this one just tickled me pink. So it was really fun just to have something that almost felt like a Harry Potter book, right, for adults. And so I think that's probably the best characterization I can say. I haven't wanted to just read until the whole series is done like this. So I'm already just about to start book 4. So I'll try not to give any spoilers, and I had to like reread a little bit to see like what was actually disclosed, so I don't give too many spoilers. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Happy fourth to you too. And I mean I'm already done with book number 2, knowing that you've finished the book and kind of kept plugging along. It's been a bit since we've been able to get together to do this. I haven't been feeling the best, and you're not home traveling for the summer. So I know it's been a bit of a time gap since our last chat.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I don't know if it's just because I've talked about it, but all of my feeds, like all of my Instagram and all the Facebook feeds, keep just pushing Dungeon Crawler Carl at me, and for whatever reason, I'm okay with it. And I'll say even I had the book with me when Casey and I were out. We did a little staycation. The grandparents took the kids for an overnight, and Casey and I went out. And as we were out, it was funny, I was carrying around the book, and I had people stopping me and saying, "Oh my gosh, Dungeon Crawler Carl." I literally had probably 3 people where we had, an intense conversation about the book. So, I don't know,
How
this
how? Like, how did you have an intense conversation about the book?
well, just about, like, how much fun the book is, and, like, how many there are, and the next one that's coming out, and just the anticipation.
Yeah,
So
because
I get a sense that this one wasn't your absolute favorite.
I get the appeal for sure, and I've enjoyed reading it. This I mean, spoilers for my opinion on the second book, but the second book is better, in my opinion, and I'll start the third one soon. But yeah, I don't know. I agree with you. Like, the book is definitely a, like, Harry Potter-esque in its capture of, like, an audience. Like, there are people everywhere. I was at Barnes& and Noble the other day, like, our local bookstore was closed. Actually, I almost died. I'll have to tell you this story later. Like, yeah, and I needed to just kind of pull off of the interstate and check out my car, number 1, and number 2, like, get my heart to stop beating so fast. So I would yeah, I'll tell it to you at another time. But stopped at the Barnes& and Noble, and I'm just kind of walking around, and there are people standing around this, like, pillar dedicated to Dungeon Crawler Carl. A few of them were pretty funny because they were talking about pirating the books, which kind of fits the the satire sort of, plot points for Dungeon Crawler Carl, the main focus of the book, I guess, the satirical nature of it. But yeah, it's definitely not a deep read, that's for sure. But I've seen the audience capture, I've seen the people get super excited for it. I mean, I'm definitely gonna keep reading them. So
Yeah. I
before
think
we
they just did better. But yeah,
yeah.
I should we probably give a little bit of recap for those that haven't.
Yeah, yeah.
been exposed. So Dungeon Crawl Carl, this is, it's one of these like fantastical stories where you wake up one day in the shoes of Carl, and he's just a normal guy, and aliens come, and you don't even know that it's aliens at first, but they basically suck the whole planet down beneath the crust into a dungeon, and these stairs appear all across the world, and you are given the choice that you can either go into the dungeon and try to proceed through the levels and have a chance at getting free, or you can stay on the surface and try to survive for yourself. But everything has sunken below. So of the 9, billion people or whatever, there's I can't even remember. It's like in the millions that are left. I want to say it was like 12 million to start out with. And so it's this intergalactic televised show that all of these different factions, there's a lot of politics, intergalactic politics that are at play. Um, and so these are now all the star characters in a basically like a series of survival. And so the whole premise is kind of like a D&D campaign where you're crawling across and you're beating monsters and you're leveling up as a character, and the characters get basically kind of like an interface, if you will. It's like he's entered a video game in a lot of ways, and so it's really interesting. I think you made a comment about this before. You were kind of saying that Carl and his cat is with him as he goes down the stairs, and his cat's name is Princess Donut, and so they become a pair. But you were kind of saying that Carl and Princess Donut don't really have like a lot of depth to them. Uh, and for me, I actually think that given the circumstances around when Matt Dittman wrote this, I think this was around 2019, 2020, and so I'm not sure if this was like this must have been right before pandemic. I'm trying to think of what the timeline was there, but like for me, that experience of the shock and the grief of losing everyone and just kind of this, strange place that you're in, really resonated for me, right? And it was just like, how do you control what you control when everything is crazy and out of control? So it probably reflects the times that we're in right now, but also, kind of an effect of, the times when he was writing it as well. So
Yeah, so it falls into a category called lit RPG, which I've read a bit before. So lit RPG, like you said, is kind of D&D-esque, but it's a book. So it's a novelized version of like a video game, of a role-playing game. Some other more famous ones are like He Who Fights Monsters, or Pirate Abba wrote a book like The Wandering Inn, which was a serialized sort of web based write up that then they brought together and created a book, created multiple books. Some of the, I think it's the longest written work ever at this point. And I think it's a team of people that have written it. Yeah, so like you said, the characters, you have Carl, you have Princess Donut, who is sort of responsible for Carl even getting in this situation or being able to get into the dungeon itself. And it's definitely sort of a millennials, it's written for millennials. It's sort of a millennials wet dream is probably what they would call it, as it is entirely like 80s references, 90s references. They make references to old video games. It's very like pop culture based.
yeah, like Ready Player One, kind of
Yeah, Ready Player
felt like
One
that.
comes up, like, but then it goes back further. They talk about Frogger. There's some other like more like based references throughout the book. So definitely an interesting. read, definitely a fast read. I'll give it that. I got through this book very quickly, and even the second one. The second one took me it's shorter, so probably took me a week to read the entire thing. I was helped on the second book because I was taking a course and was in the car a lot, so I picked up the second book's, audiobook. I won't be able to get the rest because I don't wanna buy the physical and have the audio, but for this one in particular, like, my library had book number 2 in audio format, but doesn't have the rest, so that's okay. But I did listen to a bit of the second one.
Did you like the audio version? Because normally that's how I read them, but these, like I said, I've been transitioning to physical and
So, reading the first one, I also felt it was very fast, and as we've discussed, I feel like I remember a lot more from the first one than the second one, but the sheer amount of, like, production value that went into the audiobook, the narrator is fantastic.
yeah.
Does different voices for everybody, there's sound effects, there's other things, and it's quite good. I don't think that I'm going to pick up the rest of them in audio format. I have the first 3 books in physical copy, so I'm probably going to, like, pick them all up that way.
Yeah. I had
Although the
seen I asked because I know that there was a Instagram reel I had seen with the author and with the narrator, and I think that the narrator was, like, an early, like, fan or adopter or something like that, then they got into a relationship and, it kinda went from there, so it sounded like it was more than just, like, a random narrator, that this was gonna be unique, so
yeah, and it's put on by, like, a production company that has a YouTube channel. It's kind of an interesting group, but no, it's pretty good. I mean, I prefer reading physical books just in general versus audio, but no, it's good for sure. So the I don't wanna give up too many spoilers, but really there's not a lot of depth to discuss without getting into it a bit. It's for those that are not wanting spoilers, that are just kind of interested in sort of what the book's like, I would say dark humor, there's a lot of adult content from, like fetish type stuff, references to, like, again, things from the '80s and '90s. I've seen people ask, like, can their teenagers read this? I would recommend definitely if, your teenager is older, on the older side of the teenage years and relatively mature, sure, but it's not made for kids. Like, this is if you let your kid watch a rated R movie, they can read this book. If you're not gonna let your kid watch a rated R movie, then they probably shouldn't read this.
and surprisingly, like, as the books go along, I feel like there's more and more, like, kind of gory parts, but, like, and for someone who doesn't like gore, it had did not deter me from it because there was a lot of comedic value in it. So I think that it really balances the horror or gore with the comedic
Yeah.
elements.
And then I'm sitting here as a horror fan thinking it was just kinda dumb. Like, whenever I mean,
Light horror, maybe.
yeah, the first
Yeah.
2 books, whenever there was, like, a gore bit and I mean, I like horror, but I'm not a body horror person, like, I don't like that kinda gross stuff, like, I don't like the Terrifier movies that much. It's funny because my wife loves them. Like, I like the more, like, thinker horror things, given, like, the horror books up there, like House of Leaves and some of these other ones, but yeah, the the book, definitely not for kids, I will say. So, now that we're about 15 minutes in and just as an aside, it's the 4th of July, I do recommend On Tyranny by Timothy Snyder, real quick book, given, like, the fact that the parade today, just random adult men booing their the other political party. Yeah, we won't get into that too much, but let's read some books as like a cumulative nation. All right. So in 10 seconds, we'll get into spoilers. We'll talk about this book a little more in depth. So anyone that is interested in reading the book without spoilers, take off now. And Eric, what were your thoughts on the characters of Carl and Princess Donut?
When you said before, as we were talking, getting ready for this, you said something like, that Carl wasn't very deep, and it felt at first I wanted to reject that, but then as I look back at the actual character, I think you're spot on. There really isn't much to him, right? But I think it's his response and his candidness that makes him really approachable and biteable, right? Like I think most people could relate, the way he's reacting to this crazy world, right? So I think that's probably part of what makes him work, along with the comedic effect of the cat that comes with him into the dungeon. So Princess Donut, as we dive into this is his ex girlfriend's cat. It's not even his cat; it's his ex
Yeah.
girlfriend's cat, and his
Yeah.
ex girlfriend actually wanted to get rid of the cat, and he was the one kind of defending the cat. And I think kind of, if I remember correctly, like going
He
to
was
rescue the cat, and the cat had jumped out the window, and he goes to follow it down the fire escape, and then the buildings collapse, right? So it's this whole misfortune, and he's running out the door in his boxers. So he doesn't even have pants on,
well, he
and
was
it goes
yeah, he was going to like steal the cat
yeah, yep.
from his girlfriend. So his girlfriend B like cheats on him serially. Like you know this. You
And
you
we don't even know it in the beginning, and then the farther along you read, the more and more guys that you find out about. It's quite
yeah.
great.
Yeah. And but I completely disagree. That's why I didn't immediately get into the characters or into the book because like Carl, I don't think I can understand even what he's thinking because in it he just kind of jumps in and just starts like doing the game and he has like no thoughts about the fact that the world has come to an end, the fact that like there's a huge amount of people that have just died or that have been harvested like and are kept off into like a like barren landscape because they've taken all of the material components of the world and used them to create this dungeon and taken people from the planet to like use as NPCs. Like he does not have like any remorse. He doesn't think about like his past very much. He's just in it.
Well, but that I feel like if that really happened tomorrow, that's true to the experience of the shock and awe of like not knowing what the heck is going on around you, and you're disoriented, and you've got now this voice kind of, telling you crawlers, and announcing their participation in this game, right? Like you don't have time to think. And I think that that's probably what brought me in. It's this disorienting kind of sense. And so I agree. Like the first actually two chapters, I was kind of like, what the heck am I reading? Like, why am I reading this? And then as soon as we kind of got into it a little bit, it's just him like stumbling around. Like even I think one of the first, he battles, the goblins in the very beginning in one of the hallways, right? Like it's a dark hallway, and I think he bumbles around and ends up killing one of them with his feet, which triggers like
Yeah,
part of
which
his
triggers the
ethos, right?
foot fetish thing. Yeah.
Right. But and even that isn't intentional. It's not like there's something unique about him. He's just an everyday kind of person, right? And he's flawed, and he doesn't do things perfectly, and he screws up, and he just dives in. But the things that he does you know, choose to do, I feel like you're seeing it. And I feel like actually, as you go through the stories, both Donut and Carl continued to develop. Carl probably slower, right? Even than Donut, but yeah, Carl is a little bit empty, right? But
Yeah, and I would
I think
agree,
yeah,
having read the second book, that they do get some personality, like, they do get some depth to them. So,
as they kind of orient themselves to the dungeon and like what's
yeah,
going on. Yeah.
but we're not reviewing those books, we're reviewing the first one, and the first one, there is 0 depth, there is 0 plot,
But it's
there
just
is
fun. You don't need it because it's just
right,
fun.
like, there is nothing. It
Yeah.
is it is barren of any substance, like, and still, I found it fun, and I read it, and I read it fast. I read it while I was putting my son down, and, like, got my little light and was sitting in his room while he's putting himself to bed, and I'm like, it's a fun book, but there is 0, like, as far as, like, progression. It's you know, when you play a video game, I mean, and this is it, right? I mean, that's the whole point of the first, and you have the tutorial. This book
This
is
is the
the
tutorial.
tutorial, and I mean, literally in the book, they're
Yeah.
going through the tutorial, but the entire thing is the
Yeah.
tutorial
It's the
mission of a
exposition. Yeah.
video game. There's no point.
Yeah. But it's so fantastical that, you need to do that, especially for people who may, not be in that realm, right? Like, I feel like I could walk up to this even not being a video game player, and I could totally get it and understand, like, the world and be able to jump right in, right?
Well, I feel like he spent, like, the first 10 chapters doing that. Like, if you're not a video game player, like,
But
the
that's
first
also
10
like
chapters explain how a HUD works and how, like you click buttons in order to bring up different screens. It's
uh-huh. But, like, that to me in, like, the writing and the pacing actually does well too, because then as you go forward, the quicker things become, right? And that's similar with a video game. It's similar with life experience, right? So, like, they have to, you know, crush a whole bunch of small little, gremlins with his feet to be able to rank up, and it takes a while to do that, right? And you know, the more you learn, the more you kill, the more level up, the more you kind of learn about this character too, and like his decisions, especially like when he interacts with other crawlers, right? And when the dungeon is, incentivizing you to kill, 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 and yet, there's that human piece to it. So what do you do? What does that say about him? Is it just because, he's still connected to this world that's no longer there? Is that going to go away? Or is it something that's unique in that flame that's going to stick with Carl? Right.
well, there's really only 2 interactions with other groups of crawlers in the first book. So there's the husband and wife couple that they meet in the safe room, and then there's, like, the nursing home staff and the nursing home residents at the end. Like, those are the only 2, like, interactions with other crawlers throughout the initial, because that's what they call people in the book that are in the dungeon. They call them crawlers. And, again, not so much depth to those interactions, really, like, other than to boost their popularity on the shows, like the intergalactic live, like, reality TV shows that the aliens are watching. I mean, they did Dinneman did create a bit of, a bit of depth with that adult couple, the husband and wife.
Frank and her name.
Yeah, I forget her name too, because they're not present later for a while. but they have a daughter, and Carl, given his decisions to deal with Frank and his wife, he ends up killing their daughter, which then he's sort of sad about. And honestly, maybe I shouldn't say that because I don't know if that's in the second book. But I don't know. There isn't any depth with that, with those interactions, really. But it's fast paced. It's super fast paced and super fun.
But, you know, with the nursing staff, right, like, that could have been easy. I think what they even kind of allude to, um, the whole concept of the skulls and right, skulls over the head if they've killed other people, right? And so there's kind of this, I don't know if it's just assumed in the first one or if it's more explicit in the second one about, there's benefits if you do kill other crawlers, right? And so there's it's at least alluded to, I think, here in the first book that like if you were to kill other crawlers, there'd be benefits for you. And so, when there's all these nursing home staff, like it could have been really easy, easy leveling up, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah.
But of course, they have some duty, and yet they don't join the parties formally. And so, um, it's one of those common kind of trends. Like, what do you do with that? Like, is he going to go it on his own, or is he gonna make a bigger faction
Yeah. And
team up?
he does team up with them in the end. But yeah, it's explicitly stated that if you kill other crawlers, that there's a substantial benefit because each of the crawlers, when they get to their original safe room, has a sort of guide, like a tutorial guide, who was a prior crawler that made a deal because the way the dungeon works, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, because it's been a bit since I finished the first book, and it's not so much
18
referenced
level,
in the second. There's 18 levels in the dungeon, and I believe it's level 10 or 11. If you reach
10.
there, you can opt out. You can stop, and then you can become like an intergalactic citizen. But if you reach a certain level, which I think is 13, you like win your world back.
Yeah, I can't remember about the winning the world, and I think I think you can take deals if they are given to you earlier, but they've gotten guidance that you don't wanna take any deals unless you've gotten to at least level 10. And I have a sense that, like, it's almost like indentured servitude, right? Like, if the earlier that you take the deal, right,
Right, because
the
you
worse
find
your
out yeah, you find out later,
situation
like,
is.
some of the characters, like, the more popular crawlers from prior seasons have various, like, roles that they play in the dungeon, and the people that are serving as, like, the guides, like Mordecai, the guide for Donut and Carl, they he is prior season, it's his last I think he made it to level 11, I believe.
That was 13. 13 is like the yeah,
I think one crawler has ever
had
made
gotten
it
to
to level
13 or something.
13, I
Okay,
think,
maybe he was 11 then, yeah.
and it wasn't Mordecai. I'm trying to
Okay.
remember exactly, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think
there
you're
was
right, yep.
there was one
Nobody's
crawler that
gotten
made
past 13. Yep.
yeah, no one's made it past 13, and obviously Carl's going to be the first one to get past 13, like, I'm sure in the length of these books, but given your sort of guide is kind of how you set yourself up for the dungeon and how you're going to go through it because they make references to the fact that Frank and his wife's sort of guide pushes them to defeat other crawlers rather than focus on the mobs as a way to get through the dungeon and level up more quickly and sort of position themselves the best as far as this game show is meant to be. But Mordecai is not so much like that. He's sort of this reluctant guide initially because this is his last time. Is when he accepted his deal, he has a certain number of crawls that he has to oversee, and if as long as Donut and Carl make it to level 4, he will be done. And book 1 is levels 1 and 2.
And we should maybe, yeah, note that as he comes in, they get these boxes, these like prize boxes. And so, given that he brought a pet in, he got a special, very special pet box where there was um, I don't know, a special biscuit or a pill or something like that that he gives to the cat. The cat eats it, turns into a pile of goo, and then
Mhm.
over a couple hours reforms into itself, but now is intelligent. And so that's how we have Princess Donut as a an actual crawler in the game, not just a pet. So she is now his companion, though she could have chosen to, uh, go out on her own as well, of course.
Well,
But
she
she's an actual crawler.
right, and he is her companion because
That's true. Right. Yeah.
he is the royal bodyguard to Princess Donut, like, as far as their party roles are concerned. And she has very high intelligence and very high charisma, very low constitution, and these things are all like D&D sort of tabletop role-playing game terms, which they've made. They actually made a Dungeon Crawler Carl tabletop RPG in the vein
Nice.
of D&D for people to play. But so Carl has more strength, obviously, the benefits there, dexterity. Princess Donut has more, so that's your like agility, nimbleness. You've got constitution, which in most games is directly related to your health. Intelligence is more related to like your ability to cast spells and things like that. And then charisma is how well do other people like you? Like your ability to interact with others, sort of your charm and persona. Definitely they put these two characters together, covering each other's weaknesses for the most part. But what was your thoughts on the first books? Because we're in levels 1 and 2, so the tutorial levels. It's every 3 levels is like a city. So, like, they get to level 3 is a city, but the in between levels are more like just hallways with mobs and things. What were your thoughts on, like, the progression for the first book? Like,
You know,
the
I
stakes?
liked, yeah, I mean, I liked their, there's the fun, intense, like the intensity of exploring these tunnels and trying to figure out, if they're going to run into a trap or what the next big bed monster is going to be. There's a lot of suspense in that. I felt like, Carl kind of comes up with these unique ways to be able to beat the bosses or beat the mobs, if you will. And so that alone is just, it was intriguing for me, right? But then outside of the excitement of what they're doing in this crawl, you start to get peppered in like a little bit of what's kind of going out beyond the walls, right? And we kind of get a sense that there are, I think we get some names of the different corporations that are out there. I know at least the Volte, there's like, a device that we get just a little glimmer of some information about, little hints of what's maybe going to be coming down the pike. So outside of that, the one narrative, I feel like you've kind of got other stuff going on that gives it the world a little bit more life. So it's not just a burn and turn, right? It gives it something, some substance for you to get excited about.
Yeah, the Borant Corporation is the one putting on this crawl because it's serialized television, and every season has a different company or, like, intergalactic empire that is putting on this crawl, and you find out that some of them are more like gladiatorial combat, but the Borant Corporation does this crawl where everyone gets put into a dungeon, this elaborate dungeon, and at certain levels, like level 9, there's faction wars and things that happen. So you get a sense that there are bigger entities at play, and there's some political intrigue that's kind of going on in the background that you just get the very beginning inklings of in this book. But you do get an introduction to the Volte and the Borant Corporation for sure, and what was it?
Skull
The
Highlander,
Skull the Skull
Skull.
Empire,
Yeah, Skull Empire. There you go.
which are like orcs, and there's this whole AI thing with like a deep fake video that's made that involves some racy interactions between our main character and the crown prince that is is part of the humor of the book, but
And between like levels, they'll get pulled out to do these interviews, right? And so
popular
it's
one.
in, yeah. And so it's interesting because then you get a little bit of a flavor of like what else is going on beyond the scenes, right? And so,
Mhm.
yeah, this is where he gets introduced to what's his name, his big buddy,
Yeah,
Mort
yeah,
or forget his name,
yeah, the crown prince
the
of
Crown Princes.
the Skull Empire, and also Adet. So Adet is the sort of bigger show that they're part of. So imagine like going on late night television and being interviewed by some less than reputable individuals. But the the first two levels there are like bosses. So there are like borough bosses and level bosses and community bosses and neighborhood bosses, like all of these, and city bosses, and they fight like a lady, the hoarder, and then they fight the juicer. Like the hoarder is like a human woman who hoards trash and
She like
spits
spits out
cockroaches.
cockroaches. Yeah,
Yeah, and the
but she's
juicer,
like strangely human and seems like she's from the world, right?
yeah, and strangely, like, with it as far as what's going on. Like, she asks Carl to, like, kill her and, like, asks, like, where she is and, like, what's happened at one point. So you get this sense that there is more to this whole thing, and I don't wanna blend the books together because 'cause we're just talking about the first one, but, like, you're getting little hints that keep you going, and the pace really helps the book a lot. Because if it was slower than this, I think I would have lost interest, and having read the second book, I do think that there's more there worth continuing, and I do enjoy the satire for sure. I don't know if I enjoy the humor. Like, what are your thoughts of the humor? Because like, it's funny. I mean, it is quite funny because, like, I'm more of the gamer. I'm more like, between the 2 of us, I'm more of the gamer. I'm more of, like, like, watches weird television, horror movies, like, just stupid internet memes and things, like, Ill Will Press the squirrel, Foamy the squirrel, Homestar Runner used to be a thing, salad fingers. Like, these are things that I am well versed in and think are hilarious and or, like, big cultural sort of markers for our generation, and you are not that, like, at all.
That's that's true. You
And
know,
reading this
yeah,
book, I would feel like our positions should be flipped, but
interesting. Yeah.
but what were your thoughts on the humor?
I think it was like the AI like is programmed to make this engaging, right? And so that's where there's a lot of like the cultural stuff, like what you talked about before, that gets sprinkled in, and it's described to be able to educate the you know all of the aliens on the human culture, right? And so it was kind of interesting to kind of have that nostalgic piece brought back. You have these things, but like it's just so iconic for this book. I've never seen anything like that, right? And so you'll have like all these achievements, and then the AI will make fun of you and say, "What's your reward? Nothing." Like you're alive. Be happy with that. And so it was just, I think, just so fresh and something so different that I just totally bought into it. I went along with it. There's other moments too that are just kind of like odd, right? Like they'll be fighting something and they'll get infected with vigorous measles or other kind of diseases. There's like a lot of like, kind of like gross stuff that kind of get too squirmy. And so I'm not used to that as much. Like that's not something I would be attracted to, but it works with this. So like I'm willing to strap in and go along for the ride. So, like we said before, as he comes out, the whole like appearance of Carl is that comedic look where he's got, a t-shirt on, he's got his boxer shorts with hearts on it, no shoes on, and as he goes along, he's squishing, these bugs and whatnot. And so, he's getting rewarded by the AI because of his foot fetish, right? And it's kind of this persona that comes along with him. And so there's kind of a lot
The
of
the AI has a foot fetish.
the AI has a foot fetish. Yes. So the more he leans into it, the more he gets rewarded for these types of feats of squishing bugs or doing things with his feet, right? And so it's it's it just tickled me. I mean, it's just something that it's not just a rinse and repeat. It's something I've read before. So no, I think book one it probably took me a little bit. Like if I actually think back on it, I think it probably did take me a little bit to really embrace it. But by the end, I was hooked because you had these other hooks that you could see coming. And I don't know if you want to give the super spoiler. Like there's another. I don't know if you call it like the epilogue. There's another chapter at the very end of the book
Oh, the
where it's
pineapple, yeah,
the Pineapple Cabaret or something like that.
yeah.
But it's just, yeah, backstage of the Pineapple Cabaret. And so it gives you a little glimpse into the monsters' minds, right? And you start to see that there is a little bit of autonomy behind these NPCs. And so it just that really was an interesting concept for me. And I think that by the time you get into book two, it just continues to spiral for me. So
But
I,
you
I'm
Oh, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say you skipped over the stuff I didn't think you were gonna necessarily, like, glom onto, like, the BDSM pigs, like, that are, like, one of the bosses at the end, and
Yeah,
the fact that there's, like, at one point, like, an intimacy device that is I don't know YouTube's exact rules with some of this stuff, so careful what I'm saying, but the there's some of these things that happen and some of these, like, references that are made, and it's like, I feel like I did not recommend this for kids, but I feel like I'm in, like, a 13-year-old boys like locker room
Yeah.
just talking about gross stuff.
There's a lot of gross stuff. I don't know what, but you know what? Like a lot of times, you get sucked in to those reels where you're like watching things that are just gross because they're just like interesting, pimple popping and crap like that, right? It's like it feels like that. It's like gross stuff, but like you can't take your eyes away from it. So
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
And again, I feel like our if I would have known what this book was before reading it, I feel like our positions would have been flip-flopped, and they're not, which
Oh
is
yeah,
hilarious because
yeah.
you're like full in 4 books
I had
deep.
no idea. The best part about this was that I judge books by their cover. I know it's not what you're supposed to do, but like every time I go into Barnes and Noble, I'd see the cover and I'd be like, "Man, that looks so fun." I don't know what it's about. I didn't even read the jacket, but then I know I just said, "Hey, we should throw this one on here," right? So I had zero idea what I was getting myself into. But yeah, I was happy to go along on the ride.
Yeah, and I think
It's uncomfortable. There's pieces that's like, yeah, if if I were choosing, I probably wouldn't choose that, but, you know what? He does a good job, so
yeah, and I don't find it uncomfortable, I just find it like, I don't know, like I said, like 12-year-old, 13-year-old boy stuff, which
well,
which again,
even it's
like
like the descriptions of, like, popping these bugs under his feet, and it's smush and, like, for me, I'm a very, like, I can just imagine what the ooze going through my toes, and I'm like, "Oh!"
yeah, yeah, and as I said before, I don't recommend the book for kids, but if like, I've been 13, like, in a public school, so, like, I know what kids know and, like, what they're exposed to, so there's nothing in this that I would not have understood as a 13-year-old, and but it is very just I mean, it's not all the first book at least, it's not all that deep, like, so there is let's talk a little bit about, like, plot and, like, themes, like, there is some inkling of what they're gonna get into. There is a little bit of hinting at some different themes and some different sort of plot points that are probably going to come up in future books. Like, one of the big ones is, like, capitalism is bad.
Yeah,
Like,
right.
that's a big theme across the course of the book because this is all money driven. Like, the Borant Corporation is rushing this process and giving them less time on the different levels because they need cash because they owe people money.
And
So
if they don't do it by a certain time, then they may somebody might call in a debt. There's some mounting, political tensions surrounding their planet. So,
mhm,
you feel that. Yeah,
yeah, and the other sort of, like, huge theme is that of, like, exploitation, and the people in the dungeon, be it the crawlers who are being exploited as the characters of the game, as well as, like, the prior contestants, like you were saying, who've made deals or have been subjugated to be mobs, because the goblins, they talk about if they do a good job, they can go lower in the dungeon, and the lower they are, the further down you are, the less crawlers there are, so the safer you are. And so you have these sort of sentient mob-like beings being told that they can go lower, but then they're being, like, given drugs, and I'm not saying, like, to keep them placated, they're literally given drugs, like, the goblins are fighting against the llamas for
for
drugs.
meth.
It's a drug war between between these 2 factions in order to, like, fit the storyline of the AI. So, given the plot points and the themes for the book, like, do you think again, not going into the future books, but do you feel like there's enough there in this, like, to keep a more serious reader actively reading it?
I think yes. I think there is. I I think it's a little maybe light, but I think that, like, it gets you there. Like, I don't know. I think because of the way it's structured as you're going, kind of back and forth between, there's these safe houses and then there's the crawl. And then you try to get into a safe house and learn stuff and you do tutorial and it's a crawl. And then you got a different boss. And then, right. And so the way that it's paced was enough for me to get me into the world. And then, and then everything else. And because like so much of it was just like, it was the lights and the right, like, it's the entertainment value that, like, initially pulls you in, and then it's peppered in just enough to give you that little background that's starting to formulate, that's going to be that plot, that's gonna drive you forward. So, I think it was enough, and I think, like, just the hinting towards, what's gonna be inside the box, right? It's a mystery box right now, but you he colored it just enough to be able to kind of give you that little delight at the end as we see Princess Donut give names to at least one or two of the goblins, and you kind of see at the end. I think it's in the the epilogue, right? That now that they have names, they kind of embrace those names, and it kind of awakens something within them. And so,
They name
it's
the rest of their clan, like,
and
they
then
name.
right.
Yeah.
Yep, and they go around and start naming people, and it's the name, right, that kinda gives you that human quality. So, we're kinda getting that sense that, there's more to the NPCs. It's not just the humans that are being exploited, but it's the NPCs as well. And how do you feel about it? Like, does it matter now that they're squishing all these bugs and killing all the llamas and the goblins? Should we have a little more empathy for them as well, or not? Right? Like, so it's a story about survival, but to what end? And in the beginning, you don't care because they're just nameless NPCs. Well, by the end, they have a name. So now where's our morality sit, right? And it's one thing when you've got, like you said, there's kind of two interactions with two different types of, you know, other humans, other crawlers. You've got one painted as though there's kind of a villain, kind of a villainy type of crawler that you should, steer away from. And towards the end, it's a very empathetic kind of, elderly people you should care for, right? And so there's kind of this moral argument between, how do you treat other people, and then how do you treat NPCs? And so as we go forward, I'm excited for the next ones that we'll talk about because of the development there. But I won't do any spoilers. But yes, I think that it gave just enough to be able to immerse yourself into the world. It gave you the flavor. If you don't like that flavor, then don't read the rest because it's only going to get more, gruesome, and it's only going to intensify, multiply, what he's doing. But if you like, the pacing and whatnot, I think he does a great job of that. So no, it gave me enough to get me involved, not just for the pure pleasure, but like you said, it's the plot behind it that he's starting to hint at.
Yeah, it was there were I think there was enough there. I mean, obviously, I read the second book.
Yeah.
The the second book, I think, hooked me more than the first. I will say that. So if you are a serious reader, this is definitely fun. It's definitely fast. It's definitely something that's easy if you just want your brain to be able to kind of shut off and just kind of fall into just some pure enjoyment. It fits that and it hits those marks. I would not expect this to be like your next Brothers Karamazov or your like we just finished reading Kafka on the Shore. I don't think you could read two more different books
Totally
back.
different. Yeah.
And you're in the process of reading for the wheel last time, the wr Written on the Dark, which also has a very specific flavor to it that is not
Yeah.
this, which we'll talk about in the future, but
And I was gonna say, like, I'm probably a third of the way through that book, and it has been really hard for me to go from kind of the excitement and the pacing and the tone of the Dungeon Crawler Carl to this one. Guy K is it's even just the writing itself, like, is just such a different feel. You know, like the Dungeon Crawler Carl, Matt Ditterman, I feel like, you know, he's as engaging as, like, I don't know, to me, yeah, I don't care for him maybe as much, but like Dan Brown, right? It's just kind of a page turner. It's just easy to chew through. So, yeah, I think that that's probably part of the reason why I liked it so much is because when I get done with a long day and my brain is fried, like I didn't have to sit and think about this, right? The characters just pop off the page and I can read just 10 pages and be totally satisfied. And I can't wait to get, to the next point where I have, 5 minutes and I can pick it up for a few minutes. So yeah, definitely a beach read for the summer and something that I can't wait to meet with you maybe next weekend and just chew through book number 2.
and you can read 10, 15 pages in 5 minutes, like, it's that easy, like, there isn't a lot of difficult language or, like, extra punctuation, like, it's a very clean, crisp sort of read, which makes
Or
it
like a
quick.
or like a lot of characters. I think that's a lot of times what puts me off on a lot of books that we'll get into. I think that was part of the reason why I struggle with Guy K in the beginning is because the first couple of pages you have multiple pages of all of the different characters is almost like a Shakespearean play, right?
Yeah,
And
the
even
dramatis personae. Yeah.
yeah, and when you even in other books, like the names of the characters are so strange and the worlds are so strange that your brain is thinking about, well, who is this guy and where are right? Like you just have two characters. You've got Carl and you've got his crazy cat Donut, who I'm falling in love with. And you're just chewing up some monsters and you're just kind of getting the sense of the world. So
Yeah, I feel
yeah. I go
this book is your, like, Malazan. Like, I tried to get you into Malazan, and it's just for all the reasons you just listed,
yeah.
didn't work out.
Yep.
Malazan is my it definitely top 3 series of all time. I really like the Gentleman Bastard series a lot, which I have to get you to read that. It's right there on my shelf.
And what's funny about that is, like, when you and I have talked about what the books are about, and I don't have to sit and think about the characters, I actually am really intrigued by it, right? But it's the writing that's just a little bit of a barrier. So
Yeah, there's a lot more, like, density. Those books are dense,
dense,
like,
dense,
definitely
yeah.
dense, and Dungeon Crawler
It's
Carl
like,
is the antithesis of dense.
yeah, yeah. It's probably just a product of, like, my age and my
We're
eyes
the
that are
same
going, and
age.
yeah, I know, but my bones creak now, and I gotta
So do
put oil
mine.
on my yeah.
So
No,
so what would you get into your recommendation? What would you rate the book? What are your final thoughts?
I mean, I would rate it probably a 9 out of 10 because I have been tickled pink. It's like you said, it's not if I would have known before we jumped into it, I might not have been as, like, excited. Like, there's you will not break me. The whole sentiment, yeah, I do. I am really into where the book is going. Some of it is just maybe not my total style, but you know what? I love Carl. So this almost feels like, like Dexter Morgan, if you ever watched like the Dexter series. That kind of like there's some gruesome parts to it. You don't like to like a serial killer, but that's essentially what this guy is. He's like he's going through killing all these mobs, but like He does it in a fun and strange way. Definitely something that, yeah, I absolutely agree. You'd have to be like, yeah, late teens, definitely, yeah, early 20s. You'd have a lot of, you maybe enjoy it. But yeah, with all the references, it's probably if you're our age, you'd probably enjoy it.
Yeah, the I definitely wouldn't be very, like, prudish reading this book. Like, if you are, probably not gonna be your cup of tea. And then again, for younger people. I think I have to go back and, like, tailor all of my old recommendations and, like, ratings because I don't know if you're the same way. As you sit with a book longer, like, what you feel about it, I think I need to go back and downgrade quite a few of the books we've re reviewed so far because I feel like
You've been generous.
I've been generous, yeah. Because this book, on pure entertainment value, I would give a 7. Like, it's not deep. It's not something that you're going to, like, have this is what I was saying before. I didn't understand, like, the depth of the conversation you were having with people because it's fun. And you can be like, "Oh, cool, you're reading the book. What do you think about how he, like, blew that guy's head off and, like, squished it with his feet and then made a fart joke and did this other thing?" Like, but it is fun, it is fast, it is entertaining. It is stinking expensive. This hardcover book, like $35 or something. It's insane.
Well, that's just the world we live in, Joe. Ice cream isn't a nickel anymore. So
Yeah. And one thing I wasn't a super fond of. So yeah, the Pineapple Cabaret is in the back of this book. The audiobook has a different like extra chapter and
really, okay,
does not have the cabaret at the end. It's like a sort of weird like news show that happens at the end.
okay,
So
okay. So now you got to buy both.
yeah,
Capitalism at its finest. Love it.
which is supposed to be like what this book is telling us is bad.
I love it. That's even better. Irony.
But I'd give it a 7 out of 10. I wouldn't recommend it for young people or if you're like of a certain like how do I want to say like I said, certain sort of mentality or value system that doesn't look at some of this stuff as necessarily funny. But I thought it was entertaining. I thought it was a good time. And I think you're going to see as you look at other reviews, the ones that are a little more negative come from a more sort of reserved conservative side of things that didn't appreciate all of the humor quite as much. But there's still a little 13-year-old boy in me, so
And I think they've got, what was it? Was it book 8 that just came out? And then he's working on 9, and nine's going to be a two-parter, is what I hear. Each
well
one of the
when
books is like longer. It's kind of like Harry Potter. They keep getting fatter.
I would just say like wouldn't 9 just be like 9 and 10 then if it's a two-parter?
I don't know. I don't
Like
know.
I
I'm not there yet. I
cuz
gotta
it's
get to
like
get through 4.
yeah. I mean, it's kind of like the like Malazan, the last two books.
I think it's because it's so thick. Because it's like this,
Like these things are huge.
yeah, right.
Like Dust of Dreams and The Crippled God are so stinking long.
I do appreciate the large text version. If you're old like me, I don't know if this is like a special copy or not, but it was very easy to read. It made me think about like my daughter who I'm trying to get her to read chapter books, and sometimes when they're like really tiny text, it makes your eyes hurt. So that's maybe part of it too. It's just like easy to pick up and actually read it and not have my eyes go cross-eyed.
Yeah, but you're not gonna have your daughter read this.
Nope. Actually, I was trying to describe this to my wife, and I was talking about Princess Donut, and she was like, "Oh, that sounds like something fun. Maybe I can get it." I was like, "No, no, no, no,
No,
no,
no.
no." maybe in 20 more years.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we got a 9 out of 10 from Eric the Blue and a 7 out of 10 for me, with full recognition that I need to go back and downgrade some of the books that we've read in the past, including like the Book of Joy. I think I need to bump that down. I need to bump down Interview with the Devil for
I
sure.
almost feel like we need like categories of like a slider scale based on, whether it be entertainment value or moral value or like wisdom value. We've read quite a range of different books. So this is I kind of appreciate that too.
Yeah. So that being said, no wheel. I mean, there's no real reason to do the wheel because honestly, no matter what we spin, you're gonna finish this series first anyway.
Well, that's very true. I've already read 3 and in between Guy K, I'm still reading a couple pages of a chapter book 4. So
So given that, I think we're gonna probably just run through the Dungeon Crawler Carl series and then give a end of the series recap as well. So do you have any final thoughts before we take off and go help with the kids?
run to your local bookstore and get an app.
I also recommend that everybody goes and picks it up in one form or the other. Given the message of the book, probably not both. Just ask about the extra chapter at the end. Somebody
Yeah.
else who did the other one.
Yeah. And Matt Dinniman, I'll just say, I think part of the thing that I really appreciate too is that this is like with who's the one who wrote The Martian and Andy Weir, right?
Mhm.
Here again, it's just a regular person, right? Who started writing, publishing themselves, got known just through the work, and it just caught like wildfire, right? So I was just excited to read something, that somebody wrote so recently through the pandemic. So it was just kind of interesting to see somebody come out of the woodwork. So excited to see what Matt does. I think that he just published a standalone as well, Operation Bounce House. I think I have no idea what that's about. I don't know if I'd be into that. So that's something I'm actually curious about reading, just because I don't know if I like Dungeon Crawler Carl because of Matt Dinniman or if I just like the content. So
Yeah, and I had never heard of Matt Dinniman before, but he has multiple series: the Shivered Sky series, the Dominion of Blades series, which have a little bit more serious titles. So I wonder what those are like, or if they're more like the horror series John Dies at the End by Jason Pargin. Like these are like comedy horror books, like not super serious. I wonder if he has that same style across all of his books or if it's more like if he does have a serious sort of tilt to some of the others. But all right, my friend, I will let you take off. Again, happy 4th of July to everybody out there. Hope you can get out and enjoy the fireworks. I don't think we're going to have any here. It's raining, but we'll see.
yep,
Save
happy
all your
fourth.
fingers.
Be safe. Adios, buddy.